In this video, we're going to be doing new functions from old functions. So this is one of my favorite topic because the ones you start understanding the basics, you'll just be flowing when it gets to this. So normally you're going to see in your test or exams, you'd be given something that looks like this. You have your f of x, then inside you have something like your g of x. So basically, there's your g of x, it's your internal function, then this one is your external function. So you would normally have it in this way. You have your f of x and your g of x. So if we combine them together, we have your then we have that g of x. That's going to be the on the internal side. And the rule is that we always start by working these examples from the internally going outside. As simple as that. Those are just the two rules when it comes to this one. So you see, they've given us the two tables. This is the table of f of x, and this is the table of g of x. So we only have to calculate these three. So I would do one, then you pause and you try to do the remaining two, then you will finish with us as we move, or you can just practice using the rest of the table just to make sure that you are feeling confident. So let's start with the first one. So our first one, they say they have this, they have f outside, then they have the g inside. So how do you go about working this one? As we said, you start by working your g of 0, which is the internal one. What is your g of 0? Your g of 0, the internal part, you go and check, okay, you have your g of 0, g0, it gives you 2. You write, you have your 2. Then this implies now that your f of 2 would be equals to, remember, you've worked the internal part, which is this one, then it gave you your 2. Now you're taking this 2, you're putting it in this side, so you're having f of 2, which is the one that I've written that side. As simple as that. So now you go and check from this one, what is your f of 2? F of 2 gives you your what? Your 6. That's how you get the first one. Then we're going to go to this one where they say they have your g outside, then they have g of 0 inside. You still have the same thing. I don't know why they are repeating this, but it's fine. You have your g of 0. G of 0 is equals to 2. Then this implies that you're going to have your g of 2, which gives you what value? G of 2, you're still on this one. G of 2, it gives you 3. You see, remember, we start on the internal, then we go on the external. So we found g of 0, it gave us a 2, then we take the 2 to the side. So this one gets replaced by the 2, then it will give you your y value of 3, because remember, here you have your x values, here you have your y values, x values, y values. So as simple as that. So we have the last one, we have our g outside, then internally we have f of 0. So yeah, I wasn't the one that was choosing these examples, but I just got this question the way it is. So don't be surprised if they're just asking about the g of 0. They can also ask you something like your g of 4. You still have to use the same procedure. It's not always like that. That's why I was just saying you can play around with the examples. So we start internally. We'll say your f of 0, it's going to give you 10. Then now you will have what? Your g of 10. You will have your g of 10. Then your g of 10 is going to give you 15. G of 10 is going to give you 15. So now I'm going to give you this one, which you can try to find and comment with the answer. You have your f, then internally, what can I say? Okay, we're gonna say we have our g of 6. See, so you have to find this one for. So yeah, this is part 2 of the video where you are given an example that looks like this. So they say you have your f of x is equals to your x to the exponent 4 and g of x is equals to your 3 to the exponent 4. So they tell you to find this function and also this function. So with this one, how I approach them is that in each and every instance where you are given an external function here, like your f of x and your g of x, within that function where you see your x, you input the internal one that you see. What do I mean? In this case, you see external, they gave us our f of x. So within this f of x, where I see x in the function, I'm going to be inputting which one? The g of x. So here, like an example, I have my x to the exponent 4, but internally I said where I see x, I'm going to put what? I'm going to put this one, which is 3 to the exponent x. So now it means I'm going to be having what? I'm going to be having 3 to the exponent 3 to the exponent x all to the exponent 4. So basically what I did was just to input this one into the internal side of that one. So this would be your final answer for that one. So now let's do this one. So you go and check, okay, you have your g of x. Your g of x is given as 3 to the exponent x, but we said where we see x, we're going to be putting what? We're going to be putting our f of x. So it means now we will say we have what? Okay, this is the answer for the first one. You have your 3 to what? Where we see our x, we input f of x. What is our f of x? Your f of x is your x to the exponent 4. So remember this one, you can also write it in this way, that you have your 3 raised to the exponent x. But where you have that x, that's where I had to replace it with the function. So as simple as that. So I don't want to explain it further. I might start to confuse you guys. So that's basically how you do these types of examples. So I think we're going to do more examples. I think I have example 3 and example 4. So I'm just gonna pause the video and write another example. So example 3, we have one that looks like this. So they say consider the function h of 1, h of 2, and also h of 3. Write down the functions of f of x and g of x if h1, h2, h3 is equals to this. So basically they're just telling you in each and every graph you have to find your f of x and your g of x, which is the internal one. So we're going to start with the first one and say, okay, in this graph, what do we have? You have your g of x and also your f of x, the way we have been doing the question. So if I'm going to consider this function, what would be my internal function? My internal function would be your 1 minus x, and the rule is that each and every time you remove a function from this one, you always replace the part where you took by x. So now it means from this one we are going to be left with the square root of x. So since this one is just going to be simple, here we're going to write the square root of x. And the second one that I like to use is that I try and identify the type of functions that I have. This one, you can see that it's linear, and this one you can see its power. Remember, this one can also be written as x to the exponent 1 over 2. So first rule, you remove the first one, you replace by x, then moving like that. So these are still the easiest one. We're still going to get to the ones that are much complicated. So we go to H2, which says you have sine of x. Okay, so okay, this one can be simplified. I'm just gonna simplify it for you, that you can write it as sine of x all cubed. So now you have to find your g of x and your f of x. So how do you go about doing that? So with this one, the internal one, you can see that you have what? You have sine of x. And I said each and every time you take out one function, you replace the part where you took with x. So now you're going to be left with what? You're going to be left with x exponent 9. So now this one, you can just simply write it here, since it's just going to be the only one left. So now the last step, you ask yourself, what is this type of function? This is your trigonometric. Then this one is your power function. So I don't think you'll ever get an example where you are having a function that is repeating, like an instance where you are getting a trigonometric and a trigonometry. So you have to be careful with this one. Whatever you pull out in this type of questions, it has to be a different function. So now we're going to move to the last one, which you have to calculate your g of x and also your f of x. So with this one, what's the internal function? Your internal function is definitely your x to the exponent 5. Then the one that is outside, it's going to be what? It's just going to be your cos of x, because remember I said after you take out your first function, you replace with x. So it meant we had cos of x because we had taken this one. And so when we come to the second one, we just write cos of x. So now you see here, what do we have? We have a power function. Then here we have a trigonometric function. So yeah, as simple as that. Then you'll get your six marks if it's in a test or an exam. So I'm going to look for example 4, which is going to be at least a little bit tricky compared to the other ones. So again, I'm going to pause the video and write the example down. So yeah, this is the last example that we're going to do. So we're given a question that looks like this, and they ask us to calculate the h of x, the g of x, and the f of x. So let me just write them down. They want the h of x. Remember, we're starting internally going out. Then you get to your g of x. Then you get to your f of x. Same rules still applies. You're starting internally. Whatever that you remove, you replace what's left. You replace that portion with an x. So if we're looking internally, what can you say would be the first function? Remember, you can also pause and try it first before I continue with this one. So if you look at this one, this would definitely be the one that's internal. So you will write, you have your 1 minus your 2x. And what type of a function is this one? This is a linear function, and since I've taken out this one, I'm going to be having what? I'm going to be having 1 over ln of x, because this is already taken. Then now I'm still working the internal one, which is your g of x. Then we see g of x will just be ln of x. So now you'll just say you have your ln of x. Then what type of a function is this one? This one is your logarithmic. You see? So once from this one you've taken your ln of x, you get left with what? With your 1 over x. So that's basically how we do them. Each and every time you take a function out, you leave, you just write an x where it was. So now you write your 1 over x, and this one can be written as a power function. Remember, this one is your x to the exponent minus 1. So yeah, so that's basically how you do your new functions from old ones. You first start internally going outside, and whatever function that you pull out, where it was, you replace it with x, continuing. Then you can also just like use this tendency or habit of just writing the functions out, so that you will know whatever that you have taken out is indeed something that's correct. Because if you just sometimes write it out, you might find out that whatever you have written, it's not a function, and that would definitely be a sign that you are not calculating, you have taken out something that's wrong. So yeah, I'll see you in the next video.